Thousands of USC students may be unknowingly eligible for vaccinations in LA County.
Did you know there was a local election yesterday? We didn't either. See how this USC alum came out on top.
Dolly stands celebrate as the philanthropic icon gets a taste of her own medicine. Literally. This is Annenberg TV News.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
It's vaccine season, and I could have been eligible if I got paid for this job. I'm Annalise Tuscan, reporting from Los Angeles.
And I'm Savannah Welch, reporting from San Diego. USC student workers are now eligible as education staff for the COVID vaccine through LA County.
So I am a student worker / TA, and I called the hotline this morning, and I just asked them if there was any possibility that I would qualify for the vaccine, and they told me that I was eligible, and I literally made the call at like 8, and I was booked for a 1:45 appointment today.
Student workers looking to get vaccinated will need to provide the following at the vaccination site: a government-issued photo ID, proof of residency in LA County, and proof of work at the school. USC student workers getting vaccinated through KEC do not need proof of residence as long as the student has USC health insurance. Here are some examples of proof of work documents: a work badge, a pay stub with your name on it, or a letter from an employer saying you work for them. Only one of these is needed, but getting an appointment isn't easy. Slots fill up fast on LA County's scheduling website. Some USC students have turned to other measures for getting the vaccine.
And I got my second dose of the COVID vaccine, I believe it was last week, and I am so glad that I'm vaccinated. It is really anxiety relieving, and it makes me feel a little better about just like my own safety.
And the process for me to be able to get the vaccine was very random and sudden. The pharmacies are actually getting fined if they have to throw away the vaccines, and if they're not used up by the end of the day, they have to throw them out. And I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, well, it kind of feels like I'm taking it from someone who should be able to have access to the vaccine. But he clarified that Rite Aid was the one that was pushing, come get it, because we're literally throwing them away. They're going to waste.
As Los Angeles approaches the anniversary of the coronavirus lockdown, the LA City Council is providing some relief. Grocery stores and pharmacies must offer employees what is being called hero pay, an extra $5 per hour. Reporter Martin Weiss spoke with one of the people who will be impacted.
Nicole Williams started her job at an undisclosed grocery store in South Los Angeles in February. She spoke about her experience as an essential worker throughout the pandemic.
I think the best way to describe it is that it has been a roller coaster. So like you said, starting in February, things were semi-normal then. It went from everyone kind of being in this panic and like being around. So customers were definitely not as friendly. You'll have your days where you're customer facing and you don't really know how you feel about the pandemic. So your days are also here.
After a year on that roller coaster, she's seen it all. Her job changed significantly, but the pay stayed the same.
So every little thing is a ticking time bomb. So when you have a customer that's very concerned about COVID because, maybe they have a loved one at home going through it or something like that, they run into a customer that is completely fed up, and those two just don't match.
Hero pay will be added to employees' base pay for the next 120 days. Nicole is grateful, but after a year, it's too little, too late.
I'm supportive of it. It's just, again, being a worker and being out there every day, it just doesn't necessarily cover the entire risk of the position that us as workers and employees are in. So it's definitely twofold, but at the end of the day, it's a great compensation for now. So kind of taking what we can get at this point.
Either way, hero pay for these workers is well-deserved. For Annenberg Media, I'm Martin Weiss.
Movie theaters shut down since the start of the pandemic could reopen soon. As reporter Tony Quad shows us, there is reason to be hopeful as COVID case rates drop in California.
Movie theaters can reopen at 25% capacity once LA County moves into the red tier. But for that to happen, the county case rate must be between 4 to 7 per 100,000 residents. and it must remain at that level for 2 weeks. The county adjusted rate is currently 7.2 per 100,000. For people like Joshua Latona, going to the movie theaters was an experience like no other.
Honestly, I just miss it so much. I keep thinking about it. I think I prefer the movie going over the movie because I think the movie going typically enhances my experience and makes me like the movie even more because I have these good memories tied to it.
Joshua was an active moviegoer, but the pandemic changed all of that. Now he watches movies in the safety of his home.
You can feel an energy in that room that you don't get really at home. And even though people tell you, yeah, you can build a theater experience at home, it's not the same.
A J.D. Power survey revealed that the average household spends $47 a month on streaming services, with Netflix as the #1 streaming provider. While some people can't wait for movie theaters to reopen, others like Aaron Lugo are not quite comfortable returning just yet.
I'm a little hesitant because you don't know, like, if you go in, you don't know if somebody else is going to go in and have the virus. So I'd rather just take precaution. I think I'd wait for my family to at least all get vaccinated first.
Moviegoers are worried about the survival of movie theaters.
I think we're probably just going to head down the line where people are going to feel less obliged to go to the theaters when they know in 45 days, 30 days, 60 days, it's going to be on your streaming service.
There is good reason to worry. In 2020, movie theater revenue worldwide was down a whopping $7.5 billion over the previous year. For Annenberg Media, I'm Tony Quach.
San Bernardino County is close to achieving what every county in California is hungry for. Residents are close to the privilege of enjoying a meal inside a restaurant, as the COVID positivity rate is down to 4.3%. Most California counties are in the purple, widespread risk tier, but San Bernardino is expected to transition to the red, substantial risk tier on March 22nd. This means restaurants, elementary schools, gyms, and retailers will be able to open indoors with modifications.
In California, it's not an option, but next week, people in Texas can decide for themselves if they want to wear a mask. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says his state is going back to work, with businesses opening at full capacity and masks no longer required. One reporter, an Annenberg alum, gives us her view.
I report on an extremely low-income community, a minority majority community, and here we're literally dropping like flies. So to say that we can start going back to normal is an injustice. It's been pretty much, nope, we're not doing this. I mean, our local schools have said, we're still going to wear masks, so you can't come in. A lot of private businesses have said, nope, we don't want to follow that order as well. So it looks like it's pretty much not in favor of the order. But that being said, I know I've heard from some people like, yay, I'm not going to wear my mask.
Some businesses and people are concerned about giving masks up entirely. Many big businesses such as Target and Kroger will still require masks inside stores. A UT student and a Whole Foods grocery worker expressed their concerns.
I think the only people that are going to stop wearing their masks are the people who don't care and also haven't taken the vaccine. So I feel like more people are just going to get sick. I worry that the reason they're lifting it is because they want to make people less mad instead of safe.
My parents are both at risk. They work because they have to. I work because I have to, and it's unsafe and upsetting. It feels powerless now. Like, if it's not mandated, like, I can't really tell people, hey, you gotta wear a mask. And we're like, nope, don't have to, and just walk in.
The state of Mississippi lifted its mask mandate as of today, making the total number of states not requiring masks 15. The new Texas rules go into effect on March 10th, adding one more to that list.
It was 30 years ago today that 4 white LAPD officers were caught on tape brutally beating Rodney King. The man who took the video sent it to a local TV station. And that set off an angry reaction about police brutality that still simmers today. From Los Angeles, I'm Mimi Geller with The Breakdown, a weekly segment where we try to provide more context about the stories students care about. 4 officers tried to pull King over for speeding, but he took off in a high-speed chase. The ordeal ended on a street in the San Fernando Valley. The 4 officers were tried for felony assault, but a mostly white jury acquitted them. The decision outraged many who saw this as another example of injustice and racism. The anger boiled over into 5 days of deadly rioting. The video became a historic example of citizen journalism, and 2 college professors explain its impact.
I think there are several legacies of that footage. One of the legacies is that it taught us that citizen journalism does matter and can matter, even if it didn't lead to the outcome that the community really wanted to see in terms of the officers involved taking responsibility for or being held accountable for what they had done to Mr. King. It still allowed people to see something that the Black community in Los Angeles in particular, but really all over the United States, knew was true. And so it really gave voice and space to people to be able to see what happens.
How are citizen journalists uniquely positioned to cover these kinds of issues of social injustice?
So I'm wary of the term citizen journalist because journalists have a code of ethics, right, that they are bound to follow, or at least that they should follow. And what we're seeing instead is what Alyssa Richardson calls witnessing enabled by digital means. And so what it does is, rather than try to capture a moment and then frame it as a journalist would in a wider narrative of either blindness to that situation or critiques of ongoing institutions, that witnessing moment serves to situate that action in a specific place, time, and archive. Right. And it becomes immensely important because suddenly the person recording the video is as much a part of the capture by the police as the person being violated by that video.
Later, the officers were charged and convicted in federal court of violating King's civil rights. The LAPD was investigated and was forced to make massive changes.
A surprisingly small voter turnout gave a USC alum a big win in a special election, sending her to Sacramento as a state senator. Sydney Comliger grabbed 2/3 of the district that represents USC, South LA, and parts of Culver City. A surprisingly small voter turnout gave a USC alum a big win in a special election, sending her to Sacramento as a state senator. Sydney Comliger grabbed 2/3 of the district which represents USC, South LA, and parts of Culver City. One of her priorities is the environment. She believes California can run on 100% renewable energy by 2030. She is also focused on tackling California's homeless crisis by fighting for more affordable housing.
Now that USC has opened all its outdoor facilities, I wonder how the athletes are doing.
Can't wait to learn about sports.
We just got news that USC's women's basketball has beaten Arizona State in the first round of the Pac-12 tournament, 71-65, which they will now go on to face number 1 Stanford. Now, Sydney, they had a solid performance today, very impressive from the field, great in defense. What do you think will be their leading factor going into this next game against Stanford?
You know, they're going to have to keep scoring buckets. This last game, they had 4 Trojans in double figures. Jordan Sanders, 14 points. India Rogers, 15 points. Jordan Jenkins, 16 points. Alyssa Peely with 12 points. At this rate, I feel like we have a good game on our hands. And that's not all that's happening with hoops this weekend.
USC's men's basketball is focused on snapping their 2-game losing streak, with their eyes set on Stanford and UCLA this week. The men of Troy have been nothing short of impressive this season. They are 3rd in the Pac-12 standings with a 19-6 overall record. Sophomore guard Ethan Anderson remains confident that his team can compete against anyone in the tournament and is excited to see what lies ahead.
Tonight we can beat any team in the country, and a lot of teams can beat us, so it's just going to depend on our focus level. But in terms of my confidence in the team, I think we're one of the most talented teams in the country. Anybody in the world, including whoever may be ranked ahead of us.
UCLA is one of those teams ranked above SC, and they meet again this Friday at Pauley Pavilion. In their last matchup, the Trojans came out on top with an 18-point victory at home. The Trojans were more successful than their rival, both from field goal range and behind the arc. UCLA struggled to find a rhythm as they went 16% from the 3. Both teams will look to make a run in the Pac-12 tournament. But now we toss it to Sydney Rocket to talk more Trojan sports.
Thanks, Lachelle. Women's soccer has finally ramped back up with a couple games under their belt. This season, junior forward Penelope Hawking is taking on a leadership role.
Now I'm in my junior year, probably one of the oldest people on the team. I've had a lot of experience. My goal every single day to go into practice is to be a really good teammate and be kind of like a role model for the younger girls.
Hocking coped with a 1.5-year-long off-season because COVID-19 postponed soccer season to this spring. Although Hocking is stepping into a new role as a team leader, all of her teammates are facing new circumstances. Everyone has to practice with a mask on.
We have to wear a mask at all times. We can only pull it down if we're conditioning, but during practice, we have to have our mask on at all times. It's really exciting to be able to play again. You really appreciate the sport and everyone that's doing everything in athletics for us to have this opportunity.
The women of Troy will be at home this weekend facing Oregon State on Friday, ending with Oregon on Sunday. We're joined again with my co-host Lachelle. And Lachelle, as you know, there are no fans in the stands at these USC sporting events. But today, Governor Newsom announced that with cases continuously dropping, he's working with the MLB trying to implement fans back in the stands. All I remember is the last time I was actually a fan sitting in the stands was probably February of 2020, attending a high school soccer game. Lachelle, do you remember the last time you were sitting in the stands as a fan?
Actually, this is like the 1-year anniversary that I was actually a fan in the stands. It was a high school basketball game, and I miss it. I'm pretty sure everyone else misses it. So hopefully we'll all continue to do our part with this virus to make sure that we could, again, be in the stands.
Indeed. Well, that's all for sports. Back to news.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Horwitz from Orange County. It's currently raining here, a much-needed storm after record dryness in January and February. But don't get your hopes up. State officials say that this precipitation is not enough to get us out of our drought. The Southland got about 1/4 inch of rain today. That's a lot compared to recent weeks, but far short of what the state needs.
With below average precipitation across the state, California's reservoirs are starting to see the impacts of a second consecutive dry year.
Another multi-year drought means elevated fire risk across the state this summer and fall.
California, the last couple of years, the fire seasons have just been historic. You have the largest fire in California history. 6 months later, you have one that's bigger. The drying out of the brush, the drying out of the foliage leads to increased fire risk across the state.
Orrock says to avoid a severe drought, the state would need it to rain like this every day in March. For Annenberg Media, I'm Jonathan Horwitz.
The first case of the Brazilian variant of COVID-19 was confirmed in LA County. Scientists say the variant appears more contagious and infected people who had immunity from previous cases of COVID. The CDC has reported that there are 10 cases of the variant in the United States.
Vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please don't hesitate. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. 'Cause once you're dead, then that's a bit too late. Here I go.
At least Dolly's safe. Dolly Parton donated $1 million to the development of the Moderna vaccine, the same one she just received. We talked to one of Dolly's biggest stans.
It's seeing her do things like that and seeing her do great things just makes me love her even more and just kind of solidifies that. And then, you look up to people and sometimes they do not so great things and you want to defend them or you want to, make excuses for them. But I never have to make excuses for Dolly. She just kind of makes me proud, makes everyone proud.
Wow, well after that, Annalise, are you feeling ready to get vaccinated? Did Dolly convince you?
I would love to get vaccinated as long as Dolly sings me her vaccine rendition of Jolene.
I couldn't think of anything better than listening to Dolly Parton while I'm being given a vaccine. That just sounds like the only way anybody should ever be vaccinated.
Agreed. I hope they put it on Spotify.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for Annenberg TV News. Thanks for watching.
From everyone at Annenberg Media, have a great night.
Vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please don't hesitate.